Writing for children is one of the hardest challenges a writer could face and one of the biggest responsibilities he could ever take. The main objective of children's books is to accompany the little reader towards his growth and guide him in the process of learning and discovering the world and, above all, himself. Too often, the translation of children's literature is underestimated, yet it is as complex as the one of any other literary genre, if not even more. If translated for adults with a complete word knowledge and a wide cultural and lexical background can already be a difficult task, translating for children whose linguistic abilities and general knowledge are not already fully mature is even more challenging. This literary genre is frequently associated only with children, and people tend to forget about the editorial production addressed to teenagers and young adults. Since the audience is so extended and heterogeneous, from the age of 0 to the age of 18, the production of children's literature rests on three fundamental cornerstones. Adaptations of works belonging to the adult literature, which have been made suitable for children, like for example Gulliver's Travels by Jonathan Swift, narrative originating from the oral tradition like fairy tales and legends, and works of literature specifically written for children, like lullabies, picture books, and novels such as Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Carol. No other literary branch is able to make pedagogy and entertainment coexist simultaneously, and the translator must take into account some elements exclusively belonging to children's literature. First of all, the fluidity, readability, and musicality of a text meant to be read out loud, but also the authority and influence of the adult that chooses, buys, or recommends the book. Also, illustrations aiming at expanding and improving the essence of the written text represent quite often a limit for the children's translator, who must find the way to make the translated text coexist with images that cannot be modified in the majority of cases. Whether he must find the way to harmonize the text with its illustrations, or whether he must find the perfect solution to express a joke, a pun, a rhyme, or the musicality necessary to respect the principle of readability, the children's translator is asked a lot of creativity and inventiveness. Just think of all those solutions made up by translators to perfectly express the semantic value of characters' names in children's stories. Names that, if left untouched, would inevitably lose their playful and creative essence. Through translations, the translator is given the incredible chance of promoting a further pedagogical value to the work. In this sense, it becomes an active part of the educational process, not only by promoting topics that are characteristic of one specific country, but also by providing a flourishing and exotic language according to the reader's age. This choice exclusively depends on the concept of domestication and foreignization of the text. At the basis of domestication, there is the necessity of clarifying what would otherwise be incomprehensible or unclear for the reader, while in the foreignization, there is a tendency to leave untouched some foreign words in order to preserve the exotic taste of narration. Obviously, the playful and pedagogical value of children's literature makes this process more complicated. An exaggerated and unnecessary domestication of the text could lead to a cultural adaptation, mining the work's original pedagogy and therefore depriving the child of the possibility of understanding and dealing with diversity. But, at the same time, an unjustified foreignization could confuse the child and make him live a situation of inadequacy and frustration. That is why it is more advisable for children aged 0 to 6 to gradually introduce the foreign term. This way, a more spontaneous and natural approach is fostered, and the child can identify himself with the story without being intimidated by a terminology he cannot understand. On the contrary, when dealing with a more mature audience, namely aged 8 to 18, the translating techniques can and must change. All choices made in children's translation are influenced by the age of the reader. The more his maturity is high, the more the translator should introduce him to that foreignness previously substituted, that will give to the work an exotic taste and will further enrich the pedagogical value of the book. To foreignize a text addressed to a more mature audience with a bigger cultural and lexical background is one of the greatest signs of respect the translator could show. And even when the linguistic roots are the same, as for English in the US and in the UK, this cultural and linguistic exchange, when left untouched, can lead to an unprecedented evolutionary and cognitive process for young readers. The topics of contemporary children's works have considerably increased their pedagogical value. More and more frequently, in fact, this literary genre acts as a mirror of modern society, dealing with topics of social interests. Therefore, its translation can undoubtedly make children from all over the world get to know different ways of thinking. A brilliant example of it is the picture book Menina Bonita do Laço de Fita, addressed to children aged 3-4 by the Brazilian writer Ana Maria Machado. Through the proposal of translation of this text that has never been translated, it has been possible to put in practice the translating techniques previously analyzed, and to prove the pedagogical benefits of children's translation. The work is typically national, rich as it is of elements belonging to the Brazilian culture and that could therefore cause some uncertainties to the translator. Moreover, since it is a book meant to be read aloud, the already typical musicality of Portuguese is accentuated with a wide use of rhymes. Nevertheless, the excellent writing of Ana Maria Machado and the spontaneity used to talk to the children's hearts about such a delicate topic like racial sensitivity makes this book noteworthy in Brazil as well as abroad. It is a work that, through cultural elements that are typical of a single country, is able to cover topics that are by now common to all nations worldwide. Every book represents in its own way a window on the world, but it is only when we are able to make a child appreciate diversity since its very first years that we have the certainty of having contributed to the formation of a better individual. And with this job, the children's translator can surely contribute to the creation of generations that love diversity and are fascinated by the beauty of the foreign.